Everyone, this time I'm going to show you 5 new interference colors that I've added already to my Etsy shop. I'm going to show you how I mix them in resin, but I'm also going to show you how I mix these mica pigments in a fluid acrylic binder. So I'm starting with mixing them in resin. There you can see it. And these interference colors are called Dazzle interference colors. I already have 5 Aurora interference colors in my Etsy shop. Mica particle of the Aurora pigments are much finer. These mica pigments, the mica particle is very large, so they sparkle a lot and they mix very well into the resin. There you can see it. And I'm going to pour these colors onto my Star MDF board. And I made it in a black color, but also white, because then you can see the difference if you add it on a darker surface or on a lighter surface. So there are 5 colors. Dazzle Gold, Dazzle Red, Dazzle Violet, Dazzle Blue, and Dazzle Green. And all these 5 colors I'm going to mix in resin. You can already see it. And then I'm going to pour these colors onto my Star MDF board. And I have these mica pigments available in 10-gram jars, but also 20-gram jars, and also in a set of 5. And then you can choose a set of 10-gram or a set of 20-gram. But the link to my Etsy shop is in the description below this video. And because this mica particle is large, it can capture more light and therefore create a sparkling iridescent effect. So first, a little bit of clear onto my Star MDF board. There you can see it. And on top of that clear, I'm going to pour the Dazzle colors. And these mica pigments are also safe for cosmetics, so that's also great. I'm removing some air bubbles with my heat gun. And the first color is Dazzle Gold. I try to show you the sparkle up close. Very nice. And then I'm going to pour it on the black and white surface. Then you can see the difference. You can see these colors on a white surface, but very subtle. But on black, you can see the color much better. The next color is Dazzle Red. So you can use these interference colors in resin, but you can also use them in a mixed lip gloss base, or you can add them to a medium for nail art. And you can add them also in a fluid acrylic binder. So there are a lot of possibilities to use these interference colors. So the third one is Dazzle Violet. Yeah, I'm also going to show you a close-up so then you can see the colors much better. But you can already see the difference on the black surface and on the white surface. And the fourth one is Dazzle Blue. Very nice. And the last one is Dazzle Green. Very sparkly. I also want to tell you a little bit how these micropigments are made, these interference pigments. Um, these are made by mica pigment coated with a titanium dioxide. And when you view them straight, the pigment appears more white. And when you view them in angles, the pigment shows iridescent colors. And these changing colors are due to the thickness of the titanium dioxide coating. So that's very important. If the light catches the surface of the pigments, it's reflected, and scattered by the layers that make up the pigment. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. But that's a little bit how these interference micropigments are made using my heat gun to make the resin a little bit more fluid, but also to remove air bubbles. Air bubbles, that's much nicer. So this is a close-up. Then you can see the sparkle a little bit better. But I also have a close-up outside in the daylight. But that's later in the video. But this is the close-up right after pouring. Very nice. Very sparkly. Much more sparkly than the Aurora interference pigments in my Etsy shop. I like these a lot. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, now up close how they look in the resin. This is the Dazzle Gold. Very nice. And in the picture, you can see them on a black surface, but also on a white, the donuts below the jar. This is the Dazzle Violet. Very nice. And the Dazzle Blue. So this is how they look in resin. But you can use them in a lot more other mediums. And the last one, Dazzle Green. Yeah, very nice. So now I'm going to show you how you can use them in a fluid acrylic binder to make paint. So you can paint with it. So I'm going to show you how I mix them, starting again with the Dazzle Gold, adding pigment in my jar, or in my hard cup. There you can see up close how it sparkles. A little bit, very careful. And I always use a mask because you don't want to breathe in these particles. It's not good for your health. So that's the fluid acrylic binder. Now carefully I'm going to wet all the interference mica pigments or particles. There you can see it, very careful. And I will do this with all the colors. Second one, there's all red. Yeah, what you also need to know, some important things about these interference mica pigments, that they are translucent, they are angle dependent, and you have the strongest color effect on a dark surface. So that's what I'm showing you now. And also in the beginning on a when I mix them in resin on a black surface and on a white surface. And these mica pigments can also be mixed with other colors. If you mix them into a lighter color, then the interference effect will be almost blocked. But this is also ratio dependent. If you add a small amount of the lighter color, then you can create subtle interference effects. If you mix these interference pigments into a dark color, then you will for sure create a nice variety of interference colors. The third color is Dazzle Violet. Again, the fluid acrylic binder. Very careful. I make all the particles of the interference mica pigment wet with this acrylic binder. And you can also mix these interference mica pigments with a translucent acrylic medium to create iridescent nail polishes. So that's also nice. The fourth one is the Dazzle Blue. Again, a little bit of the mica pigment. Adding the fluid acrylic binder. And you need to use a fluid acrylic binder that dries clear, because then the interference colors will be visible. So you can use these interference mica pigments almost in any color you like. It will slightly lighten the base color, but that's also again a possibility to create other colors. I will add a link to a video of the Aurora interference mica pigments. Then you can also see that I add them to another color, and then you can create different shades of that color. It's also very nice. But you can also do that with these Dazzle interference mica pigments. So now I'm going to use my brush, mix it again, and then I will add these on my black piece of paper. Yeah, the camera is a little bit out of focus. I'm so sorry for that. But also a close-up of this at the end of the video. So what I mentioned, the acrylic binder that I'm using dries clear. So now it looks a little bit white, but it will dry clear. So if you want to do this, make sure that you use an acrylic binder that dries clear, because not all acrylic binders will dry clear. The second one is the Dazzle Red. Doing the same, I mix them with my brush, and then I will add it onto my black piece of paper. There you can see it. So a lot of possibilities with interference mica pigments. You can do a lot with them. But the difference, again, the difference with my Aurora interference mica pigments that I already have in my Etsy shop is the particle size. The larger the particle size, the more sparkly the interference pigments are. You can also add these interference pigments in an ink, in a translucent ink or transparent ink. It's also very nice. The third one is Dazzle Violet. Yeah, and I'm very pleased that I could add these interference micropigments to my Etsy shop. Very nice. And now I have 10. Yeah, they are the same colors, but yeah, the difference is the size of the particle, what I already mentioned. But I like these very much because they sparkle, and people that know me that they know that I love sparkle. And the Dazzle Blue. So I will let this dry, and I will also show you a close up when these colors are dry. And the last one, Dazzle Green. Almost done. So this is right after. Now you can see how the colors look. You can still see a little bit of the white of the acrylic binder, but that will go away after it's dry. But they are very shiny, very sparkly, and you can do a lot with these mica pigments. Very nice. Yeah, this is a dried result of the resin, the micropigments in the resin. There you can see the difference on a black surface, but also on a white. You can see them on white, but it's very subtle. Also nice, but then you can see the difference. And what I mentioned, you need to view them in different angles. Then you can see the colors much better. When the light catches the micropigment, then it will show the iridescent effect. And this is in an acrylic binder. It's dry outside in the daylight. Also very nice. So you can do a lot with these Dersol interference mica pigments. And if you're interested, the link to my Etsy shop is in the description below this video. There you can find the interference Dersol colors, but also the Aurora interference colors. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!